There comes a moment in life when the fear of failure disappears, not because you suddenly become fearless, but because you finally feel like you have nothing left to protect, nothing left to defend, and nothing left to lose. That moment is terrifying, yet strangely liberating, like standing at the edge of a cliff and realizing the ground behind you has already disappeared. Most people spend their lives playing defense, protecting comfort, protecting reputation, protecting the fragile image they think the world expects from them. But the greatest performances in human history were never created from comfort. They were born from desperation. When an athlete steps onto the field after being told they are finished, overlooked, or forgotten, something changes inside them, and that change is not visible on the outside at first, but it burns like wildfire beneath the surface. The mind stops whispering cautious excuses and begins shouting dangerous possibilities, and suddenly effort becomes effortless because there is no longer a safety net to fall back on. This is the raw force of nothing to lose energy, the kind of power that turns ordinary people into unstoppable forces of motion, the kind of power that ignores doubt, because doubt no longer has anything left to threaten. The truth is that comfort whispers, but desperation roars, and when that roar finally echoes through your mind, you stop negotiating with your limits and start breaking them. This is the moment when hesitation loses its grip, when perfectionism loses its control, and when action becomes the only language your spirit understands. There is a story often shared in the teachings inspired by Dr. Grandpa Henry, a reminder that rock bottom is not the end of the road, but the place where fear finally runs out of weapons. When you believe you have everything to lose, you hesitate, you calculate, and you shrink your ambition to fit inside your comfort zone. But when you feel like the world has already taken everything, hesitation disappears, and boldness becomes natural. Imagine the athlete who has already been cut from the team, already been doubted by coaches, already been ignored by crowds. Suddenly, the pressure vanishes because expectations are gone, and in that silence, something powerful awakens. Effort becomes pure, focus becomes sharp, and the mind enters a state where excuses no longer exist. This is the energy that pushes one more rep when the muscles burn, one more sprint when the lungs scream, one more attempt when failure feels certain. The most dangerous competitor is not the one who is winning, but the one who has already lost and refuses to stay down. Because when nothing remains to be taken, everything becomes possible. At first, this energy feels chaotic, almost reckless, like a storm tearing through everything you once believed about limits and control. But hidden inside that storm is a level of focus that most people never experience in their entire lives. When you believe you still have comfort to protect, your brain constantly calculates risks, constantly searches for the safest route, constantly whispers that tomorrow will be a better day to try again. Yet when tomorrow no longer feels guaranteed, the mind shifts into a completely different gear, and urgency replaces hesitation with a clarity that feels almost supernatural. Athletes describe this state as a tunnel, where distractions disappear and time seems to slow down, where every movement feels intentional and every decision feels instinctive. And this is not magic, but psychology pushed to its most raw and honest form. The brain stops conserving energy and begins releasing it, tapping into reserves that were always there but never fully accessed, because comfort convinced you they were unnecessary. Still, there is a dark side to this transformation that many people never talk about, and it is the moment when the surge of nothing to lose energy meets the wall of reality. This is the moment of suspense, the point where exhaustion screams louder than motivation, and where the past begins whispering that maybe the doubters were right all along. It happens in the quiet hours when nobody is watching, when the adrenaline fades and the distance to your goal still feels impossibly far away. In that moment, the mind tries to drag you back into safety, offering the familiar comfort of surrender disguised as logic. It tells you that slowing down is smart, that quitting is reasonable, that protecting your remaining energy is the responsible choice. This is the turning point that separates transformation from temporary motivation, because the storm that once pushed you forward now demands a deeper decision. The teachings inspired by Dr. Grandpa Henry often describe this as the second fall, the invisible fall that happens inside the mind before it ever appears in the real world. Many people survive the first fall of failure, but they collapse during the second fall of doubt, and this is where the real battle begins. The athlete who learns to push through this invisible resistance discovers something shocking. The fear of failure was never the biggest obstacle. The real obstacle was the comfort of retreat. When you push beyond this mental wall, the storm transforms into momentum, and momentum becomes a force that is incredibly difficult to stop. Every step forward builds evidence that the impossible is not as solid as it once seemed, and every small victory fuels the next surge of action. What once felt like desperation begins to feel like purpose, and the chaos slowly reorganizes itself into direction. This is the hidden bridge between rock bottom and peak performance, and crossing it changes the way you see effort forever. Once you cross that invisible bridge, the energy that once felt wild and unstable begins to transform into something steady, something focused, something powerful enough to carry you far beyond the place where you first believed your limits existed. What started as desperation evolves into discipline, and what began as survival slowly becomes mastery. The athlete who once trained out of fear now trains out of identity, and that shift changes everything, because the effort is no longer fueled by panic, but by purpose. The body becomes stronger, but more importantly, the mind becomes quieter, less concerned with proving others wrong, and more committed to proving the new version of yourself right. This is where nothing to lose energy reaches its highest form, not as a burst of reckless courage, but as a calm and unstoppable momentum that moves forward regardless of obstacles. The world begins to look different from this perspective, because challenges no longer feel like threats, but like invitations to grow, and setbacks no longer feel like endings, but like adjustments to the path. There is a deep realization that emerges in this stage, a realization that echoes the teachings inspired by Dr. Grandpa Henry. The moment you stopped fearing loss was the moment you started gaining everything that truly mattered. Confidence grows quietly here, not as loud arrogance, but as a steady certainty that you can endure more than you once believed. The same energy that pushed you through sleepless nights and exhausting days now carries you through moments of pressure with a sense of calm control. The crowd may see the performance, the victories, and the visible achievements, but they rarely see the silent transformation that made those moments possible. They do not see the nights when doubt tried to return, the mornings when fatigue felt heavier than motivation, or the countless decisions to keep moving forward when stopping would have been easier. Yet those invisible moments are the true foundation of greatness, because greatness is not built in the spotlight, but in the quiet repetition of effort when nobody is watching. Eventually, the person who once felt like they had nothing left to lose discovers something extraordinary. They now have something meaningful to protect, not comfort or reputation, but the version of themselves they fought so hard to become. The journey comes full circle, and the fear that once disappeared is replaced by gratitude, the gratitude of knowing that rock bottom was not a punishment, but a beginning. The edge of the cliff that once felt terrifying now looks like the place where you learned how to fly. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notifications so you can see our new videos early.